about the lack of time to consult around it, hoping for much more from the government, but support from the Greens. Thank you.
Richard Prosser.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, New Zealand First thanks the Minister for this notice, albeit that it's a little bit late, coming some 5 hours after the notice actually comes into force. Do share some of Mr Browning's concerns, but I would say in response to that, they're probably not germane to the issuance of this particular order. I think that they are something that are separate, and perhaps the way in which the earthquake recovery is dealt with on the ground is a matter for another discussion. The extension of this order itself, Mr Speaker, I think we are fortunate in New Zealand that the imposition of emergency powers and the imposition of executive authority over and above normal legal procedures is something that happens on a rare basis, and we trust that that happens for very good reason when it does, and we tend to support it for those reasons. And this certainly appears to be a case in point. We do know that when natural disasters occur, cleaning up after them, getting things back on track is not something that can occur always to a formula. There are delays that crop up. There are additional elements of damage that are found. Jobs are found to be taking longer than was previously thought. And so in situations like that, it only makes sense that the emergency systems that are put in place in order to facilitate recovery can be extended as necessary. So not to hold up the House any further, Mr Speaker, I would say that New Zealand First does thank the Minister for this notice. We do support it. We share some of Mr Browning's concerns, but they are, as I say, probably better dealt with in another forum. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Jerry Browning in reply.